Louder. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves through the Negro streets at dawn looking for an angry fix. Angel-headed hipsters burning from the ancient heavenly connection to starry dynamo and the machinery of night, who poverty and tatters and hollowed-eyed and high set up smoking in the supernatural darkness of cold water flats, floating across the tops of cities, contemplating jazz, who bared their brains to heaven under the L and saw Mohammedan angels staggering on tenements' roofs illuminated, who passed through universities with radiant, cool eyes, hallucinating Arkansas and Blake-like tragedies among the scholars of war, who were expelled from the academies for crazy and publishing obscene odes to the windows of the skull, who cowered in unshaven rooms in underwear, burning their money in wastebaskets and listening to the terror through the walls, who got busted in their public beards, returning from Laredo with a belt of marijuana for New York, who ate fire in paint hotels and drank turpentine in paradise alleys, death or purgatory their torsos night after night with dreams, with drugs, with walking nightmares, alcohol and cock and endless balls. Incomparable blind streets of shuddering cloud and lightning in the mind, leaping towards poles of Canada and Patterson, illuminating all the motionless whirl of time between. Peyote solitudes of halls, backyard green trees, cemeteries, dawns, wine, drunkenness over the rooftops, storefront boroughs of tea-headed joyride, neon blinking traffic light, sun and moon and tree vibrations in the roaring winter dusk of Brooklyn, ashcan rantings and king light of mine who chained themselves to subways for the inlet ride from Battery to Holy Bronx or Benzedrine, and to the noise of wills and children brought them shuddering mouth, racked and battered, bleak of brain, all drained of brilliance in the drear, dear light of Zoo, who sank all night in submarine light of Brickfords floated, as Brickfords floated out and sat through the stale beer afternoon in desolate fugazes, listening to the crack of dew on the hydrogen jukebox, who talked continuously, 70 hours from park to pad to bar to Bellevue to museums to the Brooklyn Bridge, a lost battalion of platonic conversationalists jumping down the stoops of fire escapes, off windmills, off Empire State, out of the moon, yakety-yak, screaming, vomiting, whispering facts and memories and anecdotes and eyeball kicks and shocks of hospital, jails, and wars, whose intellect discord in total recall for 7 days and nights with brilliant eyes meet for the synagogue cast on the pavement, who vanished into nowhere, Zen, New Jersey, leaving a trail of ambiguous picture postcards of Atlantic City Hall, suffering eastern sweats and tangerine bone grindings and migraines of China under junk, withdrawal in Newark's bleak furnished room, who wandered around and around at midnight in the railroad yard, wondering where to go and went, leaving no broken hearts, who lit cigarettes in boxcars, racketing through snow towards lonesome farms in grandfather night, who studied Poe, St. John of the Cross, telepathy, and Bop Kabbalah, because the cosmos instinctively vibrated at their knee in Kansas, who loaned it through the streets of Idaho seeking visionary Indian angels, who were visionary Indian angel, who thought they were only mad with Baltimore gleamed in supernatural ecstasy, who jumped in limousines with the chairman of Oklahoma on the impulse of winter, midnight streetlights, swollen rain, who lounged hungry and lonesome through Houston seeking jazz or sex or soup, and followed the brilliant Spaniards to converse about America and eternity, a hopeless task, and so took ship to Africa, who disappeared into the volcanoes of Mexico, leaving behind nothing but the shadow of dungarees and the lava and ash of poetry scattered in fireplace, Chicago, who reappeared on the West Coast investigating the FBI in beards and shorts with big pacifist eyes, sexy in their dark skin, passing out incomprehensible leaflets, who burned cigarette holes in their arms, persisting the narcotic tobacco haze of capitalism, who distributed super communist pamphlets in Union Square, weeping and undressing while the sirens of Los Alamos wailed them down and wailed down Wall, and the Staten Island ferry also wailed, who broke down crying in white gymnasiums, naked and trembling before the machinery of other skeletons, who bit detectives in their neck and shrieked with delight in police cars for committing no crime but their own wild cooking pederasty and intoxication, who howled on their knees in the subway and dragged off the roof waving genitals and manuscripts, who let themselves be fucked in the ass by saintly motorcyclists and screamed with joy, who blew and were blown by those human seraphim, the sailors, caresses of Atlantic and Caribbean love, who bawled in the morning, in the evenings, in rose gardens and the grass of public parks and cemeteries, scattering their semen freely to whomever, come who may, who hiccuped endlessly, trying to giggle, but wound up with a sob behind a partition in a Turkish bath, when the blonde and naked angel came to pierce them with a sword, who lost their loved boys to the three old shadows of fate, and one-eyed shrew of heterosexual dollar, and one-eyed shrew that winks out of the womb, and the one-eyed shrew that does nothing but sit on her ass and sip the intellectual golden threads of the craftsman's loom, who catapulted ecstatic and insatiate with a bottle of beer, a sweetheart, a package of cigarettes, a candle, and fell off the bed and continued along the floor and down the hall and ended fainting on the wall with a vision of ultimate cunt and some eluding the last gasms of all consciousness, who sweetened the snatches of millions of girls trembling in the sunset and were red-eyed in the morning but prepared to sweeten the snatch of the sunrise, flashing buttocks under barns and naked in the lake, who went out whoring through Colorado in a myriad of stolen 8 cars, NC, secret hero of these poems, Coxman and Adonis of Denver, joy to the memory of his innumerable joy and lays of girls in empty lots and diners, backyard, movie houses, rickety roads, on mountaintops, in caves, or with gaunt waitresses in familiar roadside lonely petticoats, uplifting and especially secret gas stations, solipsisms of Johns and hometown alleys too, who faded out in a vast sordid movies, who shifted in dreams, woke on a sudden Manhattan and picked themselves out of the basement of hungover with heartless Tokay and horrors of Third Avenue iron dreams and stumbled to unemployment offices, who walked all night with their shoes full of blood on the snowbank docks, waiting for a door to the East River to open to a room full of steam, heat, and opium, who created great suicidal dramas of the apartment cliff banks of the Hudson under wartime blue floodlights of the moon, and their heads shall be crowned with laurel in oblivion, who ate the lamb stew of the imagination or digested the crab at the muddy bottom of the rivers of Bowery, who wept at the resonance of the street with their pushcarts full of onions and bad music, who sat in boxes breathing in the darkness under the bridge and rose up to build harpsichord to their loss, who coughed on the 6th floor of Harlem, crowned with a flame under the tuberculous sky, surrounded by orange crates of theology, who scribbled all night, rocking and rolling over lofty incantations, which in the yellow morning were stanzas of gibberish, who cooked rotten animals, lung, heart, feet, tail, borscht and tortillas, dreaming of the pure vegetable kingdom, who plunged themselves under meat trucks looking for an egg, who threw their watches off the roof to cast their ballot for eternity outside of time. An alarm clock fell on the heads every day for the next decade, who cut their wrists 3 times successively, unsuccessfully, gave up, and were forced to open antique stores where they thought they were growing old and cried, who were burned alive in their innocent flannel suits on Madison Avenue amid blast of leaden verse and the tanked-up clatter of the iron regiments of fashion and nitroglycerin shrieks of the ferries of advertising and the mustard gas of sinister, intelligent editors, or were run down by the drunken taxicabs of absolute reality, who jumped off the Brooklyn Bridge, this actually happened, and walked away unknown and forgotten into the ghostly days of Chinatown soup alleyways and fire trucks, not even one free beer, who sang out of their windows in despair, fell out of the subway window, jumped into the filthy Passaic, leaped on Negroes, cried all over the street, danced on broken wine glass, barefoot, smashed photograph records of nostalgic European 1930s German jazz, finished the whiskey and threw up groaning into the bloody toilet, moans in their ears and the blast of colossal steam whistle, who barreled down the highways of the past journeys to each other's hot rod Golgotha jail solitude, watched or Birmingham's jazz incarnation, who drove cross country 72 hours to find out if I had a vision, or you had a vision, or he had a vision to find eternity, who jumped and journeyed to Denver, who died in Denver, who came back to Denver and waited in vain, who watched over Denver and brooded and loaned in Denver, and finally went away to find out the time. And now Denver is lonesome for her heroes, who fell on their knees in hopeless cathedrals, praying for each other's salvation and light and rest until the soul illuminated its hair for a second. who crashed through their minds in jail waiting for impossible criminals with golden heads and the charm of realite in their hearts, who sang sweet blues to Alcatraz, who retired to Mexico to cultivate a habit, or Rocky Mountain to tender Buddha, or Tangiers to boys, or Southern Pacific to Black Locomotive, or Harvard to Narcissus, to Woodlawn, to the didacticisms, to the daisy chain or grave, who demanded sanity trials, accusing the radio of hypnotism, and were left with their insanity and their hands in a hung jury, who threw potato salad at CCNY lectures on Dadaism and subsequently presented themselves on the granite steps of the madhouse with shaven heads and harlequin speech of suicide demanding instantaneous lobotomy, and who were given instead the concrete voice of insulin, metrazole, electricity, hypotherapy, psychotherapy, occupational therapy, ping pong, and amnesia, who in humorless protest overturned only one symbolic pigeonhole table, resting briefly in catatonia, returning years later truly bald except for a wig of blood and tears and fingers, to the visible madman doom of the wars of the mad towns of the East. Pilgrim states, Rocklands, and Greystones, photoed halls, bickering with the echoes of the soul, rocking and rolling in midnight solitude, bench, dolmen realms of love, dream of a life, a nightmare, bodies turned to stone as heavy as the moon, with mother finally, and the last fantastic book flung out of the tenement window, and the last door closed at 4 a.m., and the last telephone slammed on the wall in reply, and the last furnished room emptied down to the last picture of mental furniture. A yellow paper rose twisted on a wire hanger in the closet, and even that imagery, nothing but a hopeful little bit of hallucination. Carl, while you are not safe, I am not safe, and now you're really in the total animal soup of time. And who therefore ran through the icy streets obsessed with a sudden flash of the alchemy of the use of the ellipsis, catalog of variable measure and vibrating plane, who dreamt and made incarnate gaps in time and space through images juxtaposed and trapped the archangel of the soul between two visual images, and joined the elemental verbs and set the noun and the dash of consciousness together, jumping with sensation of pater omnipods arternia deus, to recreate the syntax and measure a poor human prose and stand before you speechless and intelligent and shaking with shame, rejected yet confessing out of the soul to conform to the rhythm of thought in his naked and endless head. The madman bum, an angel beat in time, unknown yet putting down here what might be left to say in time come after death, and rose, we incarnate in the ghastly close of jazz, in the gold horn shadow of the band, and blew the suffering of America's naked mind for love into all ili lama lama sabanica shaka strong cry that shivered the cities down to the last radio, with the absolute heart of the poem of life butchered out of their own bodies, good to eat for 1,000 years.
This, for some of you who have never seen it, is the original copy, or one of the original copies of Howl. This is how it looked like in the first few editions. Very small print. I'm going to read a short section that is the second section, but it was the one that gave Ginsburg the inspiration for Howl. He looked out after having a bad peyote night and had a nightmare that the hotel was eating children across the street. And this reminded him of, in some ways, the god out of the Bible, Moloch, who also sacrificed and ate children. This is the section number 2. What sphinx of cement and aluminum bashed open their skulls and ate up their brains and imagination? Moloch, solitude, filth, ugliness, ash cans, and unobtainable dollars, children screaming under the stairways, boys standing in armies sobbing, old men weeping in the parks. Moloch, Moloch, nightmares of Moloch, Moloch, the loveless, mental Moloch, Moloch, the heavy judger of men, Moloch, the incomprehensible prison, Moloch, the crossbones, soulless jailhouse and congress of sorrows, Moloch, whose buildings are judgment, Moloch, the vast stone of war, Moloch, the stunned government, Moloch, whose mind is pure machinery, Moloch, whose blood is running money, Moloch, whose forgers are 10 armies, Moloch, whose breast is a cannibal dynamo, Moloch, whose ear is a smoking tomb, Moloch, whose eyes are 1,000 blind windows, Moloch, whose skyscrapers stand in the long streets like endless Jehovah's, Moloch, whose factories dream and croak in the fog, Moloch, whose smokestacks and antennae crown the cities, Moloch, whose love is endless oil and stone, Moloch, whose soul is electricity and banks, Moloch, whose poverty is the specter of genius, Moloch's faith is a cloud of sexless hydrogen, Moloch, whose name is the mind, Moloch, in whom I sit lonely, Moloch, in whom I dream angels crazy, and Moloch, cocksucker in Moloch, lack love and manless in Moloch, Moloch, who entered my soul early, Moloch, in whom I am a consciousness without a body, Moloch, who frightened me out of my natural ecstasy, Moloch, whom I abandoned. Wake up in Moloch, light streaming out of the sky. Moloch, Moloch, robot apartments, invisible suburbs, skeleton treasuries, blind capitals, demon industries, spectral nations, invincible madhouses, granite cocks, monstrous bombs. They broke their backs lifting Moloch to heaven. Pavements, trees, radios, apartments, lifting their city to heaven, which exists and is everywhere about us. Visions, omens, hallucinations, miracles, ecstasies, gone down the American river. Dreams, adorations, illuminations, religions, the whole boatload of sensitive bullshit. Breakthroughs over the river, flips and crucifixions, gone down the flood, gone down highs, epiphanies, despairs, 10 years, animal screams and suicides, minds, new loves, mad generation down on the rocks of time. Real, holy laughter in the river. They saw it All the while dies the holy yells. They bade farewell. They jumped off the roof to solitude, waving, carrying flowers down to the river, into the streets.
You guys are all a packed house for a poem that's more than 60 years old. And so, first, yay you. I mean, give yourselves a round of applause. That is great. So thank you. Carl Solomon! I'm with you in Rockland, where you're madder than I am. I'm with you in Rockland, where you must feel very strange. I'm with you in Rockland, where you imitate the shade of my mother. Oops, I just got lipstick on the mic. I'm with you in Rockland, where you murdered your 12 secretaries. I'm with you in Rockland, where you laugh at this invisible humor. I'm with you in Rockland, where we were great writers on the same dreadful typewriter. I'm with you in Rockland, where your condition has become serious and is reported on the radio. I'm with you in Rockland, where the faculties of your skull no longer admit the worms of your senses. I'm with you in Rockland, where you drink the tea of the breasts of the spinsters of Utica. I'm with you in Rockland, where you pun on the bodies of your nurses, the harpies of the Bronx, otherwise known as the hoppies of the Bronx. I'm with you in Rockland, where you scream in a straitjacket that you're losing the game of the actual ping-pong of the abyss. I'm with you in Rockland, where you bang on the catatonic piano. The soul is innocent and immortal, and it should never die ungodly in an unarmed madhouse. I'm with you in Rockland, where 50 more shocks will never return your soul to its body again from its pilgrimage to cross in the void. I'm with you in Rockland, where you accuse your doctors of insanity and plot the Hebrew revolution, socialist revolution against the fascist national Golgotha. I'm with you in Rockland, where you will split the heavens of Long Island and resurrect your living human Jesus from the superhuman tomb. I am with you in Rockland, where there are 25,000 mad comrades all together singing the final stanzas of the Internationale. I'm with you in Rockland, where we hug and kiss the United States underneath our bed sheets. The United States that coughs all night and won't let us sleep. I'm with you in Rockland, where we wake up electrified out of the coma by our own souls' airplanes roaring over the roof. They've come to drop angelic bombs. The hospital illuminates itself. Imaginary walls collapse. Oh, skinny legions run outside. Oh, starry-spangled shock of mercy. The eternal war is here. Oh, victory! Forget your underwear. We're free. I'm with you in Rockland. In my dreams, you walk dripping from a sea journey on the highway across America in tears to the door of my cottage in the western night.
The footnote to Howl. Holy, 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 holy. The world is holy. The soul is holy. The skin is holy. The nose is holy. The tongue and cock and hand and asshole holy. Everything is holy, everybody's holy, everywhere is holy, every day is in eternity, every man's an angel. The bum's as holy as the seraphim. The madman is holy as you, my soul, are holy. The typewriter is holy. The poem is holy. The voice is holy. The hearers are holy. The ecstasy is holy. Holy Peter, Holy Allen, Holy Solomon, Holy Lucian, Holy Kerouac, Holy Hunky, Holy Burroughs, Holy Cassidy, Holy the unknown buggard and suffering beggars, Holy the hideous human angels. Holy my mother in the insane asylum. Holy the cocks of the grandfathers of Kansas. Holy the groaning saxophone. Holy the bop apocalypse. Holy the jazz bands, marijuana hipsters, peace peyote pipes, and drums. Holy the solitudes of skyscrapers and pavements. Holy the cafeterias filled with the millions. Holy the mysterious rivers of tears under the streets. Holy the lone juggernaut. Holy the vast lamb of the middle class. Holy the crazy shepherds of rebellion. Who digs Los Angeles is Los Angeles. Holy New York. Holy San Francisco. Holy Peoria and Seattle. Holy Paris. Holy Tangiers. Holy Moscow. Holy Istanbul. Holy time in eternity. Holy eternity in time. Holy the clocks in space. Holy the fourth dimension. Holy the fifth international. Holy the angel in Moloch. Holy the sea. Holy the desert. Holy the railroad. Holy the locomotive. Holy the visions. Holy the hallucinations. Holy the miracles. Holy the eyeball. Holy the abyss. Holy forgiveness, mercy, charity, faith. Holy hours, bodies, suffering, magnanimity. Holy the supernatural, extra brilliant, intelligent kindness of the soul.
Devin Jones, Peter Meinke, JoEllen Schilke, and Becca McCoy. Give them a round of applause.